Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another deep dive. You know, we hear Jesus Christ everywhere, especially this time of year, right? But have you ever, stopped and thought,
Yeah.
what does it really even mean?
It's one of those things, isn't it? It's like almost background noise now.
Right.
But in this deep dive, we're looking at this lecture that
Yeah.
really kind of digs deep into the whole concept.
Hmm.
And it gets really interesting when it starts connecting to different spiritual figures.
Yeah, this is going to be super interesting, especially if you're into, spirituality and religion and all that. But
Right.
even if you're not, it still gets you thinking about human potential and the power of symbols,
Yes,
all
absolutely.
that kind of stuff. So, ready to dive in.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. So, the lecture, right off the bat, it kind of challenges this basic assumption that, Christ is Jesus's last name.
Right.
It's not.
No, it's not.
It's more of a title, like a concept.
Yeah, it's a concept.
So, okay, not a surname. So what kind of concept are we talking about?
Well, think of it as like a state of being, a divine potential that's kind of within all of us.
Okay.
And the lecture talks about Christ representing that potential. It's that ability to overcome the negativity and the limitations that we have inside ourselves.
Yeah.
And he uses this term, incarnate error, to describe those kinds of struggle.
Whoa, incarnate air. That's deep, man. So it's not just about, one guy named Jesus, then.
No, not at all. Actually, the lecture really emphasizes that Jesus, or Yeshua, as his name probably was, didn't see himself as the only Christ.
Right.
He believed that anyone could embody this principle.
Wow, so anyone can be the Christ.
It's a pretty radical idea, right?
That is radical. So how do we tap into that? What does the lecture say about that?
Well, the lecture connects it to this idea of the Father within.
Mhm.
It's something that Jesus spoke about a lot. And it's kind of this inner power, this source of wisdom and strength that we all have access to.
Okay, so I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah.
It's all about looking inward, right? But Father within. I mean, that sounds kind of mystical. Can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. It's not like some supernatural being out there somewhere.
Right.
It's linked to our minds, really. It's about the incredible potential that we have in the human brain.
So it's like realizing that power we have in ourselves instead of relying on something external.
Exactly.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
It doesn't just start with Jesus. It starts drawing parallels to the teachings of Krishna and Buddha.
Mhm.
And it suggests that there's this universal truth that runs across all these different spiritual traditions.
Hold on. Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What kind of universal truth are we talking here?
It's this idea that there's this divine spark, a higher potential within each of us.
Yeah.
And different spiritual paths can lead us to that. And get this, he actually calls Krishna, Buddha, and Jesus a trinity,
A trinity, huh?
each of them representing kind of a different aspect of this journey.
Okay, now we're getting into some real deep spiritual terminology.
Ah.
So for those of us who aren't experts in theology and all that, break that trinity thing down for us.
Yeah, so he's not saying they're the same being or anything like that.
Right,
It's
yeah.
more about the principles they embody. So Krishna represents the spirit,
Okay.
the connection to a higher power,
Right. Sure.
Buddha represents the mind, understanding our thoughts and emotions.
Yeah.
And Jesus represents the unity of both,
Okay.
showing us how to live guided by love and compassion.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense. So it's like taking inspiration from their teachings, not necessarily worshiping them like gods or whatever.
Exactly.
But the lecture also mentions that a lot of religious practices today have kind of strayed from the original messages of these guys, right?
Yeah, he argues that a lot of the rituals and the traditions that we associate with religion have become kind of distorted over time.
Hmm.
And he uses some really familiar symbols like Santa Claus and Easter as examples.
Santa Claus, now that's an interesting one. What's wrong with the jolly guy bringing presents?
Well, the lecture suggests that, the modern day Santa, with all the commercialism, the emphasis on material gifts,
Right.
it's lost its original spiritual meaning.
Mm-hmm.
He links the true St. Claustrum to this concept of inner nourishment, like spiritual abundance flowing from within.
So instead of focusing on getting presents, we should be focusing on cultivating that inner abundance.
Exactly.
That's a pretty cool way to look at Santa Claus.
It is, isn't it? It makes you think about how many other traditions have kind of, evolved in ways that obscure the original meaning.
Right. And speaking of which, the lecture also has some interesting things to say about Easter.
It's amazing, how these things, figures, and concepts, we just take them for granted.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like we see them so much, we stop actually seeing them.
Totally. Like, have you ever heard the same song so many times? And then
Yeah.
suddenly you hear a lyric,
Right.
like, wait a minute, was that always there?
Yeah. That's what this lecture does. It makes you look at these figures and ideas with, like, fresh eyes.
Right.
Like the thing about, Jesus's name actually being Yeshua, it seems like a tiny detail.
Yeah.
But it makes you realize how much what we think we know about history
Right.
is just shaped by, translation, interpretation.
Exactly. Makes you question everything, like how much has been lost over time.
Yeah, and that's really the whole point of these deep dives, isn't it? Like, don't just accept things at face value.
Right.
Dig deeper, question your assumptions,
Yeah.
be open to new perspectives.
Totally. I mean, the lecture's all about encouraging that kind of critical thinking. Like, don't just take what you hear, engage with it, come to your own conclusions.
And that's where the real learning happens,
Right.
It's not about memorizing a bunch of facts. It's about understanding those principles and then actually applying them to your life.
For sure.
And that's what's so exciting, I think, about this. It's not just some ancient history lesson. This is about unlocking your potential.
Yeah.
The potential inside each of us.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not just some intellectual thing. It's like a call to action.
Yeah.
We have the power to change ourselves and the world.
It's so relevant for, like, young people, especially these days. I mean, you're bombarded with information and expectations and all that.
Absolutely.
It's easy to feel totally overwhelmed.
Lost. Yeah.
But this is a good reminder. The answers you're looking for, they're already inside you.
Yeah, it's about trusting your gut, finding that inner wisdom, and like taking ownership of your own spiritual growth.
Which can be tough, takes effort,
Yeah.
discipline, stepping outside that comfort zone.
Oh, totally. But man, the rewards are huge. Like the lecture points out, connecting with that Christ within leads to a life of purpose, meaning true happiness even.
And it's not just about you being happy, right? It's about making a better world. Imagine if everyone, tapped into that inner divinity,
Yeah.
that capacity for love and compassion and understanding.
That's beautiful. It reminds me that even just small acts of kindness,
Yeah.
self-awareness, it makes a difference.
Absolutely. We're all connected, right?
Yeah.
Our actions have this ripple effect, creates positive change.
Okay, seriously. This has been mind-blowing. It's like I have to rethink everything I thought I knew about all this,
Me too. Great reminder that there's always more to learn. This journey of self-discovery, it never ends.
It's all about being curious, asking questions, searching for that deeper meaning.
And having the courage to embrace the unknown.
Yeah.
Step into your full potential.
Okay, so we've got all these listeners out there. What's like the one key takeaway you want them to walk away with from this deep dive?
Don't limit yourself by what other people tell you to believe,
Yeah.
You have the power within you to access that Christ within, that source of wisdom and strength that goes way beyond any one religion or tradition.
Right, like what Jesus called the kingdom of God is not some faraway place. It's a state of being,
Mm-hmm.
and you can access it right here, right now.
It's recognizing that you're not separate from that divine, but an expression of it.
Yeah.
And with that, you have the power to create a world that reflects that divine essence,
Yeah.
a world of love and peace and harmony.
That is powerful. But, the lecture also recognizes that accessing all this, it's a journey. And it can be hard.
Oh, it is. It takes work,
Mhm.
discipline,
Right.
and a willingness to face your own limitations.
Yeah, but it also offers some guidance on how to start that journey. It talks about things like meditation and self-reflection,
Yeah.
spending time in nature.
Yeah, quieting the mind, listening to that inner voice, connecting with the rhythms of the universe.
And like cultivating those qualities like compassion and forgiveness and gratitude. I mean, those are more than just religious concepts.
Oh, actually.
Those are things that can transform relationships, your communities, the world even.
Oh.
Man, this has been an amazing journey. We uncovered so much information and insights. This is definitely giving us a lot to think about and explore further.
It has. And before we wrap up, there's one final thought I want to leave everyone with.
Okay. What else should we be considering as we continue to explore all this?
Well, the lecture focuses on this idea of Christ within as this universal principle, but it also acknowledges that different spiritual traditions, they have their own unique contributions.
Right.
So explore them with an open mind and heart.
I love that. Don't limit yourself to just one perspective. Read the teachings of Buddha, Krishna, Rumi, all those spiritual masters, and see what connects with you.
And don't be afraid to question things.
Right.
Challenge them. Find your own path. The ultimate goal is not to conform to any dogma. It's to awaken to that truth that already exists inside you.
Well said. This has been a true adventure.
It has.
For the mind and spirit.
I hope it inspires you to start your own journey of self-discovery and transformation.
You know, one thing that really stuck with me from this lecture, like the way it talks about salvation, it's really different.
Oh, how so?
Well, usually when we think about salvation, we think about being rescued.
Right. Yeah.
By some higher power.
Yeah.
But here, it's suggesting that true salvation, it comes from inside. It's about, like, awakening to your own divinity. You know, that Christ within we keep talking about.
Yeah. So it's not about being saved from something. It's about being saved to something.
Exactly.
Saved to your full potential.
Right. Saved to a life of purpose and meaning and all that.
I like that.
Yeah, it's like you already have everything you need to live a fulfilling life.
Right.
The kingdom of heaven isn't some far-off thing. It's right here, right now.
It's a state of being.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It is. And it connects to that other big idea from the lecture that by changing ourselves, we actually, like, have this ripple effect on the whole world.
It's true. Talks about how those positive vibes, that inner alignment, it can influence everything around us, even nature itself.
Wow. So it's not just personal enlightenment then.
Yep.
It's like a collective awakening.
Exactly. It's recognizing we're all connected. And, you know, my well-being is tied to the well-being of the planet, every living thing on it.
Wow. Man, this has been an eye-opener, seriously.
It has.
Challenged everything I thought I knew about, you know, spirituality and religion and, I don't know, even reality.
It's a good reminder that there's always more to learn, isn't it? This journey of self-discovery, it never really ends.
No, it doesn't. It's all about being curious and questioning those old beliefs and pushing ourselves, you know, to expand our understanding.
And having the courage to live your truth. And then inspire others to do the same.
This has been an awesome conversation. I feel like we just scratched the surface of this lecture, but
yeah, I know.
There's so much in there.
So many gems in there.
And we got some serious insights out of it.
We did. And I hope our listeners did too.
Yeah, if you want to dig even deeper, like we said, we've got those resources linked in the show notes.
And if you are looking for more guidance and support on your spiritual journey, you can visit www.ultimatemasters.org coaching.
All right, so thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the nature of Christ. We will be back tomorrow with a brand new episode exploring another fascinating topic.
Until then, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.